The storm rolled across Dust Creek like a herd of wild horse, rattling a tin roof of Martha Jane Holloway's shack. Lightning clawed at the black sky, and thunder shook the ground as if the earth itself were splitting open. Martha sat by a fire with her son, Tom, and Dr. Eliza, listening to the rain beat down when a first gunshot cracked through the storm. Then another. The sound echoed off the hills, sharp as broken glass. She froze, her sewing needle slipping from her hand. Trouble didn't often come this far out from town, but when it did, it came with guns. Minute later, the door burst open. Eliza staggered inside, drenched to the bone, her breath plastered against her face. In her arms, she dragged the limp weight of a man. Ashie's shirt was torn, his chest soaked dark with blood. He groaned, half conscious, and left a trail of red across the floorboard. Ma, Eliza gasped, Brit, they're out there men with torches searching. He found him by the creek. He's dying. Through the crack in the shutter, Martha saw a flicker moving through the stormy night. Riders. Their torches glowed like the eyes of hungry wolves, closing in on their home. The storm eased toward down, leaving Dust Creek wrapped in the heavy silence that follows chaos. The smell of wet earth and smoke clung to the air, seeping through every crack in Martha Jane Holloway's shack. She sat stiff in her chair, a shotgun lay across her lap, while her children slept at last in their corner of the room. The wounded stranger lay on a couch, breath shallow, a fever burning through his skin. But before trouble ever found her doorstep, Martha's days had been carved from a different kind of struggle. She had been born on the Missouri side of the river, the doctor of a ferryman who ferried more whiskey than people. By 18, she married William Holloway, a mine who promised gold and delivered caloused en and empty cuboir. When he left for a copper hills of Arizona, Martha followed, carrying Eliza a babe and hope like a burden on her back. The hope didn't last. Min caved. Wash dry up. William came home cooking black dust until one winter morning and didn't come home at all. She buried him with a precious word that felt too small. And Dust Creek became her prison and her refuge all at once. Now, at 32, Martha was a widow who rose before dawn each day to fight the earth for its scraps. She hauled water, chopped wood, mended cloth, and bartered with neighbor for flour when her garden failed. The bank who wrote her letters lined with 3 payments overdue, for a closure looming. Their land was barely worth the ink on the page, but it was all she had to keep her children fed. She had no illusion of comfort or redemption. Life was a ledger of debt, and she lived line to line. Her son, Tom, 12 years old, had shoulder already stooped from hauling more than a boy should. He spoke little, except when the weight of unfairness boiled over into sharp word. Eliza, 14, carried her father's stubborn streak and her mother's fire. She wanted to be more than Dust Creek would ever allow, but the world clipped wings faster than it grew them. For Martha, there had been no second chance, no reprieve, no miracle. Each day was a repetition of the last, engineered at them, work consumed them, silence smothered them. That was why, when Eliza dragged a bleeding man through their door with riders scouring a night behind him, Martha's first instinct had not been mercy. It had been survival. Leave him, she had almost said. We can't risk it. But the word caught in her throat, because somewhere behind the fear and the caution, there was another voice. One that remembered what it was like to be left behind, to have no one to stand between you and the dark. So she had cleaned his wound with trembling, whispering a prayer she wasn't sure God still listened to. She had boiled water, stitched his skin as best she could, and lay him on the couch William slept in. All the while, the storm raged outside, the torchlight swept past their windows, and Martha wondered whether she had invited doom straight into her home. Now, in the early grey of morning, as she watched the stranger's chest rise and fall, she released her key, grinding existence had already shifted. Trouble had found her whether she welcomed it or not. And deep down, though she would never admit it all, Martha Jane Holloway felt a spark she hadn't known in years, the dangerous spark of change. The third morning broke heavy and still, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. The rain had drained away, leaving the earth damp and the air raw with a smell of wet sage. The Holloway shack sat quiet on its patch of hard soil, the windows shuttered, the fire burning low. Inside, the wounded stranger tossed and muttered on his co, locked in a fever that showed no mercy. Martha Jane Holloway who wrung out a clot in cool water and pressed it to his brow. His skin burned beneath her touch. She had stitched the wound in his shoulder with thread meant for mending torn shirts, and took the bleeding had stopped. Infection lurked like a wolf at the edge of the woods. She had seen men die quicker than this from wound far smaller. The man groaned, word slipping from him like ghosts. Holden, don't, no, his voice rasped de regret cassand. Martha leaned close, straining to catch more, but his lips stilled. His breath came shallow, rattling in his chest, and his finger twitched at to grasping something unseen. She adjusted the blanket, tucked it firm around him, and tried not to let fear creep into her thoughts. Behind her, the floorboard creaked. Tom stood barefoot, his shirt hanging loose over narrow shoulder. He looked all day in the half-light than his 12 years should allow. In his hand he clenched his boots, tug he hadn't pu them on. Ma, he whispered, his eyes fixed on the stranger. Shouldn't we send him away? Martha turned, her lips pressed tight. Send him where? Tom shifted, his jaw hard. Back to the creek. Back to them men ant him. Anywhere buir. Es trouble, he can feel it. She looked at her boy. His thin arms, his teared eyes, the way fear made him sharper than he ought to be. He wasn't to run. Trouble lay heavy in their home now, and it breathed with every groan from the co. But she couldn't bring herself to nod. We'll keep him until he can stand, she said finally, her voice steady to her chest ashed. After that, he'll go. Tom frowned, but he didn't argue. He set down his boots and went to the corner, curling up on the quilt to sulk himself back into sleep. From the window, Eliza's voice drifted. They rusty out there. Martha turned. Her doctor, 14 and sharp-eyed, sat perched on a stool, her brow loose over one shoulder. She had been watching the ridge since dawn, where the hunter had kindled their fire the night before. He saw smoke, Eliza continued. They're waiting. Watching. Martha's stomach tightened. She crossed to the window and peered through the slit in the shutter. The desert stretched wide and empty, but far off, where the land folded into hills. She glimpsed a faint smear of ash. We'll keep the lamp dark, she said. Doors barred. No sound louder than we can help. If they come asking, we tell them nothing. Eliza's mouth curved in a half smile that was too all for her young face. You think they'll believe you? They'll have to, Martha answered, took the weight in her chest said otherwise. On the co, the stranger stirred. His hand shifted from beneath the blanket, and something glinted between his fingers. Martha hurried to his side, prying gently at his palm. A coin leather, heavy and gold, warmer than it should have been. Its surface was worn smooth on one side, the other etched with marking too strange to be from any mint in Santa Fe. She held it in her hand, and for a moment it seemed to carry a weight of years, of lives far larger than Dust Creek. Curious, she searched his blanket and found something else pressed close to his chest. A scrap of folded paper, stiff with dry blood. She opened it carefully. The words were elegant, penned in haste, cut off by a ragged tear. Inheritance secured. Holden must never know. The rest was gone. Martha's eyes narrowed. This was no drifter, Non amel cowboy limping from one saloon to the next. 10 man carrier secret det goodbye menace loyalty and in it otter greed. That night a fever worsened. The stranger tossed against his blanket, his body slick with sweat. Martha sat beside him, dipping the rag, cooling his brow, whispering prayer into the smoke dark air. He spoke in fever dream. Names she didn't know. Betrayal twisted into curse. Sommetim et begged forgiven, sommetim et swore vengeance. On s'est crié out like a child, broken and lost. Eliza dozed against the wall, her head lolling forward. Tom slept with his arm thrown over his face. The fire popped, shadow crawling up the rug wood walls. Suddenly his eyes opened. Fever bright, wild. Et fixed on Martha a tug she were the only thing keeping him tethered to earth. Don't let them take me, he rasped. Ashies voice cracked like DRY wood. Promise me. Martha's briscoed. A promise was no small thing. She had promised her husband, on his deathbed she would raise a children strong. She had promised her children, on night when engenioed sharper than the wind, that tomorrow would be better. Each promise had been a stone in the wall she built around their survival. But this a stranger, hunted by men with torches, carrying gold and torn secret? That was folly. Still, she found herself nodding. Rest, she whispered. You're a sapphire. Ashies hand, trembling, reached for air. Ashies finger were weak budey clung a together heard more than her word, a tug her voice had bound him to life itself. Then his eyes rolled back, and they fell into the feverous grip once more. Martha sat there long after, the coin heavy in her apron pocket, the letter tucked beneath her matre. She listened to his ragged breathing, to the faint stir of desert wind beyond the shutter, to her children shifting in restless sleep. And she knew the truth, tug she dared not speak it even to herself. By keeping this man under her roof, she had crossed a line she could never return from. Far off, on the ridge where the hunter waited, a coyote howled. The sound carried through the night, long and hollow. To Martha, it was the sound of wolves circling. The fever broke on a fortnight. Martha woke to the sound of low groaning and found the stranger trying to rise from the cow. Ashies' face was pale, his shirt clung to him with sweat, and his shoulder wound had bled through the bandage again. But his eyes were clearer now, green flecked with gold, sharp even through exhaustion. Lie down, Martha ordered, pressing him back with a firm hand. You'll tear the stitch. He blinked at her, his lips cracked, his voice a hoarse whisper. Where am I? Dust Creek, she said. My home. You've been shot, and you'll die if you don't rest. Ashies' gaze shifted past her, to Tom asleep against the hearth, to Eliza perched by the window with her shotgun across her knees. For a moment, the man's face softened. You took me in. Eliza en sweat before Martha could. We should have left you at a creek. Men are still out there hunting. You brought trouble to our door. The stranger winced, not from pain but from truth. He closed his eyes briefly, then looked to Martha again. If you hid me, they'll come for you too. Martha set her jaw. They already did. Ashies broke it. And you lied to them. She nodded. Memory flickered of two riders pounding at her door the night before. They reeked of sweat and whiskey, their torches throwing long shadow across her walls. They demanded to search, but Martha had barred the doorway, her shotgun steady in her hand. No man here but my boy, she had told them, her voice flat. And if you step 1 foot on my floor, you'll meet him right after you meet this barrel. The lie had burned on her tongue, but she hadn't flinched. After a tense silence, they had backed off, muttering three a they rode into the darkness. Now, recalling it, her hands trembled faintly. The stranger studied her face a tug weighing something heavy. At last, he nodded once. Then he owe you my life. Martha turned from him, busying her on with the bandage. She didn't want gratitude. Gratitude was dangerous. Gratitude made people stay. Over the next days, the shack became a place of hushed vigilance. By day, Tom fetched water in silence, Eliza kept a shotgun close, and Martha nursed the wounded man with a mix of duty and unease. At night, they took turn watching through the shutter, eyes trained on the hills where faint gleam of fire still rose. On the fifth evening, when the sun bled crimson into the desert, the stranger spoke his name at last. Jess Carter. Martha glanced up from where she sat stitching a torn sleeve. That's your name? He nodded. My father gave me the Carter, tug most men never knew it. The Holden, that belonged to him. The sound of that word Holden made Martha stir. She remembered his fever whisper, the torn letter hidden beneath her matre. She said nothing, but Jess saw the flicker in her eyes. You found it? Et murmure. The coin. The letter. Martha hesitated, then nodded. Enough to know you're not just another drifter. Jess leaned back against a wall, his gaze distant. My father is Senator Holden. One of the wealthiest men in New Mexico territory. But my half-brother, he want everything. Land. Power. The inheritance meant to be split. So he framed me for murder. 100 men after me with order not to let me rich Santa Fe alive. The word landed heavy in the small room. Tom, sitting cross-legged on the floor, looked up wide-eyed. Eliza narrowed her gaze, suspicion etched across her young face. So you're telling us, she said slowly, that every torch out there belong to men who will burn us down just to keep you hidden. Jess's jaw tightened. Yes. Tom slammed his fist against the floorboard. Then why did you drag him home, Eliza? Eliza shot back. He wasn't gonna let him bleed out in the dirt. Enough, Martha cut in, her voice sharp. Silence fell like a blade. She stood, folding the sleeve she demanded, her hand trembling only slightly. Este. We've crossed the line already. Sending him out now won't save us, it'll just make us cares by another name. Eliza exhaled, relief mingled with fear. Tom muttered under his breath but said no more. Jess stared at Martha, something unspoken flickering in his eyes. Respect. Maybe even away. The days that followed turned Martha into a woman she barely recognized. She kept her voice steady when riders returned, demanding answer. She met her eyes, stood her ground, lead with a tongue made strong by desperation. Her hands cracked from scrubbing and mending, now loaded and cleaned a shotgun with calm precision. Each act bound her tickter to Jess Carter's FATE. Each choice burned the bridge back to key survival. And yet, beneath the fear, Martha felt a strange fire stirring. For the first time since William's death, she was not merely enduring life. She was fighting for it. The barn burned on a night without star. Martha woke to the sound of cracking wood, the rush of flame devouring timber, and Tom's scream splitting the dark. She sprang from her bed, bare feet hitting the floor, shotgun already in her hand. Outside the window, the sky glowed hellish red, and smoke poured past the shutter. Eliza, she shouted. Get your brother. By the time she threw open the door, it slammed into her face. The barn was a torch, its roof collapsing in a shower of sparks. Tom had been inside, trying to chase out the mule before a fire took hold. He stumbled into the yard, cooking, his shirt smoldering at the sleeve. Eliza dragged him clear just as a burning beam crashed where he had stood. Martha's had clutched. She pressed Tom's face to her chest, running her hand over him. Burned, bruised, but alive. And beyond the wall of fire, silhouetted against the blaze, riders sat their horse. Their torches bobbed like angry stars. One of them raised his arm in a mock salute, is grain white in the firelight, before turning his horse and vanishing into the desert night. It was a warning, plein à scripture. Next time, it would be a shack. By down, nothing remained of the barn but blackened beam and ash. The mule was gone. The few sack of grain inside reduced to smoke. Thomas' face was streaked with soot and shoveled dirt over the amber, his eyes hard. Eliza stood watch with a shotgun, daring the horizon to spy a rider's back at them. Jess Carter leaned against a porch rail, palbu upright. H.S. wound had delayed enough for him to walk, to each step was heavy with pain. He watched the ruin in silence, his jaw set. They won't stop, he said finally. H.S. voice was low, steady, a tug carved from stone. Allons à Amir, they'll keep coming. Martha straightened from the ashes, wiping sweat from her brow with a soot-blackened hand. Santa Fe loomed like another world compared to Dust Creek. The street bustled with wagon and horse. Adobe walls painted by a desert sun, and the air filled with voices from every corner of the territory. For Martha, who had not left the valley in years, the city seemed too alive, too loud, a tug it might swallow a rule. But there was no turning back. They had ridden hard for 3 days, sleeping in canyon, drinking from stream, always with a sense of eyes watching from the hills. Twice, riders appeared on the horizon, but Jess Carter pushed them forward, urging them fast until the bell towers of Santa Fe rose in the distance like beacon of salvation. Now, standing in the courthouse, Martha felt the weight of every mile press down on her. The building smelt of dust, sweat, and ink. Wooden bench lined the chamber, and the townsfolk pressed shoulder to shoulder, drawn by the promise of spectacle. A trial always drew a crowd, but this one had spread whisper like wildfire. A senator's son, accused of murder, returned from a grave to challenge his own blood. At the front, Judge Albright sat stern in his chair, his gavel ready. On one side of the room stood Jess, pale but resolute, his arm still bound in a sling. Martha sat behind him with Tom and Eliza, her shotgun lay across her lap for all to see. On the other side stood Preston Holden, Jess's half-brother. Preston was polished where Jess was weathered, his coat fine, his hair slick, his expression a picture of composure. But Martha saw the twitch in his jaw, the way his eyes darted toward a folded scrap of paper Jess clutched like a holy relic. The judge's voice boomed. Jess Carter Holden, you stand accused of the murder of Rancher Elias Ford. With bounty hunter sworn to bring you dead or alive. What say you? Jess stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hand. Not guilty, your honor. He was framed. And ye have proof. Gasp rippled through the crowd. Preston's lips curled in a smile that did not reach his eyes. Jess laid the torn letter on the table. The judge leaned forward, squinting à Martha's hammered. Inheritance secured. Holden must never know. The judge read aloud. Et looked up. Half a letter. Jess straightened. Torn from my brother's own hand. A letter to his lawyer. Proving forgery of my father's will end a plow to silence me before he could reach Santa Fe. Preston logged, smooth a oil. Your honor, this is madness. My brother has always been reckless. A coin, a scrap of paper hardly evidence of anything but desperation. These, farmers sheltering him earlier. They brought him here to spin tales of betrayal so they might beg at my father's table. Martha rose before she realized she had moved. Her voice rang sharp across the room. Beg? You think we rode through fire and blood to beg? My son nearly burned alive. My home lies in ashes. We came. Dust Creek did not look a same when they returned. The storm that had on threatened to tear their world apart had long since moved on, leaving a land parched again under a weight of a desert sun. But the air seemed lighter, the silence less suffocating, as if the valley itself had been freed of something it had carried too long. Martha Jane Holloway stood in front of what remained of her barn. The blackened frame still rising from the earth like the bones of a giant lomburier. It should have broken her to see it. For months, she had feared what loss like this might mean. And yet now, with her children logging nearby and Jess Carter holding at her side, the ruin felt more like the end of an old chapter than the beginning of despair. The town had changed too. Word of the Courteous trial had spread faster than prairie fire, reaching every ranch, every dusty corner of the territory. Dust Creek, once forgotten and strangled by death, now humid with possibility. Not because Wells had come pouring in from Santa Fe, but because Jess had refused it. Senator Holden had offered him land, money, a place in the family estate. Jess had listened with care respect, and then shaken his head. My place is here, he had said, the word firm, the choice final. Instead of pocketing fortune, he had directed it outward, funneling what his father insisted upon giving him into Dust Creek itself. Debt were paid. Farm were saved. Storefront reopened. Family who had been one sunrise away from ruin now found themselves breathing freely for a first time in years. And through it all, Jess stayed close to Martha's family. At first, she resisted. Abby made her worry. For so long, she had carried her burden alone, the anger, the fear, the silence of night too long for one woman to bear. Trusting another felt like weakness. Depending on him felt like a risk she could not afford. But Jess never asked her to lean. He simply stayed. He rebuilt fence with Tom, teaching the boy how to knot wire and man post if he were training his own kin. He listened to Eliza's chatter, nodding at every word she spoke eltwecht. He carried water, patched roof, rode miles to fetch supply without complaint. And when a sun fell, when the coyote sang from a hills and the desert wind curled through the hollow place of her hat, he sat beside Martha without asking for anything more than her company. Weeks passed. Slowly, she realized her children had begun to log more freely. Thomas' shoulder lost their perpetual hunch. Eliza hummed while she worked, her voice rising like a bird's. Even Martha caught herself smiling at small things at sunrise, a stew that didn't run out before souper, the warmth of a fire when the wind beat cold. One evening, as the horizon burned orange and purple, Martha stood with Jess on the edge of the property. The land stretched before them, still scarred but alive with promise. You could have had a life of silk and silver, she said quietly. Why settle for this? Jess's smile was slow, tactful. He picked up a handful of Dust Creek's swal, letting it sift through his finger. Because he've seen what Wells can do to men. It breeds anger that never feel. But this, he gestured to the land, the cabin, the water drifting from inside. This is something worth building on. Something real. Martha looked at him, really looked, and saw not just the wounded stranger she had once dragged across her floorboard, but the man who had chosen her children's laughter of her fortune, who had fought beside her when fire and blood tried to swallow their lives whole. For the first time in years, she felt her chest loosen, as if she could finally breathe without fear pressing against her rib. That night, she watched from a doorway as Tom and Eliza chased each other in the yard, their laughter rolling free under a silver moon. Jess leaned against the post, his eyes soft, his body relaxed in a way she had never seen in any man tie to Dust Creek's hardship. The desert wind stirred, carrying a smell of sage and rain long past. It brushed Martha's face, cool and gentle, as took the land itself whispered of change. She took off all she had endured, widowhood, anger, fire, fear and for once, none of it felt heavier than she could bear. Life would still be hard, yes. The desert never promised ease. But with Jess by her side, with her children smiling, the weight seemed less like a burden and more like a foundation of something stronger. Martha closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sound of laughter sink into her bones. Then she opened them, meeting Jess's gaze. Feel lighta, she whispered. Jess nodded, his voice low. That is because it is. And for a first time in longe den she could remember, Martha believedit.